Good morning, everybody. So John's going to, hi, that's me. Good morning. We're going to talk about bowls. John's wedging some clay on the his table. We'll watch him do that. There you go. And while we're watching him do that and show you how he does that really cool thing, here we have to, I'm not really good at this backward stuff. There. Watch Johnny. Then I'm going to bring you some bowls. I'm including soup mugs today. There we go. Or you can... There, yeah, get it.
This is the spiral wedge.
We have to find you here. There's my camera. I don't think I can see you yet. Keep going. It's not your fault. It's the setup, the setter-upper person. And kicking the thing around, that's just great. Okay.
You get extra points for that.
For kicking things around?
The extra point kick.
Oh, football is everywhere, isn't it? Okay. Talk, honey.
So, the height of my wedging table, as you can see, is I extend my arms, and when I put out my hand, I don't touch it, so that when I wedge, I can push through. A wedging table this high, or even this high, can be very difficult on your shoulders, and it's less efficient. And the shape of the piece I'm wedging here is really, really important. So I gently rock it back and forth until I get this nice round shape. And I'm not really doing much with my hands. You'll see my hand go down and just turn just slightly. And this hand keeps the clay from going this way and prevents the shape from disappearing. And oftentimes, beginning students see this and think that there's this tremendous force, but the actual wedging process is fairly easy, and it's not that strenuous, unless you're wedging 50 pounds.
Unless, yeah.
But
Did you ever wedge 50 pounds
yes,
at a time?
Yes.
Why would you do that?
Because I thought I could.
Okay.
So I did.
So you did?
Did, yeah.
Wow.
And this style of wedging makes a really nice shape for throwing a pot. And I'm going to be throwing bowls today. And this, I weigh each piece. That's 3 pounds. This is the 3.5 pound bowl. And the reason I weigh the clay is that I can get uniformity. I mean, I could play with clay all day and get 100 different sizes. But I wanted to show that book.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. There.
So I'm going to wedge some more clay.
Okay. So, some people throw, a lot of potters, I've noticed, they get the clay already pugged in their bags, and then they just cut them out and start using it. They don't wedge it. Why do you wedge it? It should be good to go, right?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I'm always secure when I know I've wedged the clay properly.
Okay.
And I can feel the difference when I'm working with the clay. I can feel the inconsistency. In fact, when I start out, I will cone the clay up and press it down. And that's an extra wedging, and I can, it's like a double check.
Yeah, well, they're doing that same thing, the coning up and down. They do that several times before so it's just your personal preference.
Yeah, right,
okay.
Exactly. And this is the other, this is a press wedge.
So when you say you have confidence and security, that you're talking about that the
clay is uniform.
Uniform. There are no bits floating around that will curse you,
Right.
or you will curse them. Because inevitably there are going to be little bits of something, even clay that's little bits of hard, sharp little things that you have to pick out.
Even subtleties.
Okay, interesting.
I think the real test is to take clays that are different colors and start wedging it, and then you slice it open. You can see that it's not thoroughly mixed.
Okay.
So if you take a white clay and a dark red clay, obviously it would turn pink eventually.
Yeah.
And be uniform.
Eventually.
And with this style of wedging, here this is, I'm going to weigh it. That's a mere 8 pounds. But I rock it until I get the shape that I want.
Is this for throwing off the hump then?
This could be, yes.
Okay, or a casserole?
Or a casserole, or anything
Large
bigger.
Bowl, a large bowl.
And when it's bigger like this, I do have to apply a little downward pressure. But you can see the clay moves in a circle, and I'm just slightly turning it.
I don't know if I can see that. Yeah, pretty good.
Hitting it right here with the palm of my hand. This took me about a week to learn, and after I learned it, I never went back.
Huh, interesting.
Because I could wedge larger quantities, and I can see that there are inconsistencies. There's an air pocket.
Yeah, it's a big one too.
So the way to slice the clay is to throw it down vertically like this, so that if there are any air pockets in here, they get pushed out.
Okay.
Well, here's a fine example.
Correct.
So if I throw it down that way, it just opens it up.
Yeah, it can't be seen. Oh, it opens it up. Oh, I see.
And that would be an air pocket.
Ah, it was an air pocket. You found it.
I pounded.
Yeah.
And the question always comes in somebody's mind, and mine too. So how long do you wedge this? And what I do is I count to 20, cut it, and wedge 20 more times, sometimes 30 times. Depending on what I'm doing, and I measure things like that, only to know that when I do this, 9, 10, 1,
Counting and talking.
and I'm going to do this just a little longer.
So some potters throw off the hump, and you do too. So how did you fall into throwing off the hump? And pretty soon John's going to show. Throwing off the hump means that you just, instead of making little balls of clay, you make something right off of the big ball. You just get little balls. Little balls, I mean. Okay. I feel like I'm in your way.
No problem. And one of the beginning books that I read was this book by Bernard Leach.
Wait a minute. Hi, a little higher.
There we go.
Yeah, good
Called
job.
A Potter's Way. And Bernard Leach went to Japan and studied with this potter named Hamada, a very famous potter, to learn folk pottery versus industrial pottery. And he brought that concept of folk pottery to England, and that spread to the United States.
And
That
so
was
folk
back in the
and folk pottery means
one of a kind.
Okay.
art pottery, but not manufactured
Okay.
or industrial.
Not pumping them out with a ram press.
I mean, potters do experience production of some sorts, but
No, yeah.
they make.
So Hamada was a master, a national treasure in Japan. Their potters are the ones who've been around and achieved, I don't know what the criteria is, but then they're national treasures in their country. And they're almost like rock stars. There's a couple of potters I follow on Instagram, and when they have a show, oh my gosh,
They sell out.
well, they sell out, but the place is packed with people, and it's very, very not sedate, not, oh, we're looking at art. I mean, it's rock star stuff. The guy is several of them. And eventually, some of these potters become national treasures. It's amazing. And so the National Endowment to the Arts, that's a good beginning. But all potters believe that we're keeping a tradition alive.
There's a great reverence for the technology and the skill and the craftsmanship, the artistry, all that stuff that it takes to make a simple bowl or a mug or a tea bowl, teapot.
Takes a lot
And
of
then
experience.
you have to understand how fire works.
Okay, you're moving over. While you're setting that up, I'm just going to show a couple of bowls, and I'm going to move this like this. John's in the background now. Here. Hi, you guys. Thanks for stopping in. And putting up with our fumbling around this morning. I don't know why. It's one of those things. So, right here is a soup bowl or soup mug. And you can see the inside. Soup mugs are one of our really popular items because they are so useful. And they make me really happy because people are really happy. And that's important. Because you can use these little soup bowls for so many things. We have people, okay, I'm not as creative as my customers are. I may look that way, but our customers are some of the smartest people I know and the most creative, even with this. Several people have shared with us that what they do with their soup mug is mix their breakfast cereal, a hot breakfast cereal, and they'll put in their oatmeal and all the fruit they want, all their seasonings or flavorings or whatever, and then put it in the refrigerator and at night. And then in the morning, they can pop it in the microwave and heat it up, and they have a breakfast right there for them. Even though that goes against the cautions of don't put something cold and make it hot like in the microwave, but so far nothing has exploded or cracked. So apparently it works. And that's just anecdotal, just word of mouth. So that was a great revelation for me because, of course, all I think of it is soups, stews, chilies, leftovers. These things are the best for leftovers. You just throw your food in, place it gently, and then put it in the microwave and zap it. We figure a good cold soup out of the fridge, 2 minutes, maybe, stir it up. Depends on how hot you want it. And of course, these are great for serving chili and stews and soup. You can have a little plate next to you, of course, for crackers or bread or whatever it is you want. But the soup mugs are really handy. And when you microwave this, or when you put really, really hot soup in here and and serve it at the table, this handle stays reasonably cool. I can't guarantee that it doesn't warm up. It depends on how hot you want the world to be. John likes his soup very, very hot. I like mine not so hot. So his handle gets a little warm. But you'd be able to hold it anyway because it's such a great handle. This is a copper glaze. It's a copper red. Right here, apparently it was right sitting in a spot in the kiln where it was too cool for the red to continue. So it leaves this unusual mark, which makes this kind of special, because you can never recreate something like that. It makes it really one of a kind, and you don't have to fight anybody for your soup mug, because it's obvious that it's yours. So what I've done with my coffee mug is my uncle kept stealing it when he'd visit, and my children did, so I wrote Mom with a black Sharpie on the foot because it won't wash off. And then they kept using it. Now, I didn't yell at my Uncle Peter, but I did say something to my kids, and they're like, no, Mom, it says, wow. So, yeah, they're smarter than I am, too. So John will tell me when he's ready to throw. Is this off the hump, honey?
Yep.
Okay. So here is a larger, this is the 8-pound ball. No, this isn't the 8.
That's the 5.
This is,
excuse me, 3.5.
This is a 3.5-pound ball.
Starting.
Oh, yes. After it's been fired, but the glaze puts weight on it, so it is not still 3.5 pounds. I don't know how the light is doing here, but it's a really nice deep red, nice white circle around just a little bit. So these bowls are great for if it's just a 2-person family, for mixing your salad in it, and holding fruit, serving anything. If you're going to serve hot food, I recommend you either warm this up gently in the oven, and then you can put hot food in there. It'll stay warmer longer, or not, depending on what you want. But if you're going to put something really cold in here and pop it into a hot oven, then you're running the risk of it breaking. So put things into a cold oven. Put your pottery into a cold oven. And then everything warms up together and it's safer. That's why I think preheating these little guys is a good idea. If you want to keep your food warmer. Uh-oh, John's ready. Is that true?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just show you this one. This is a blue one. And this is essentially the same kind of design that the red one had. The white porcelain lines didn't show up very well because red is a pretty strong color. So these are really good for a lot of things. Okay, I'm going to move you over to John, and he's going to throw a little bit before we go back to talking about mugs, soup mugs and bowls. Okay, hold on, honey. All I have is your head right now.
Good morning, class.
It's not a class, silly. You're just showing off. Right? This is not good enough. Look out. Okay. Now let me know if you can't hear us. Yes, last week we had problems with the audio. And I can't see through the words. I can't see it all. I'm sorry.
Come back toward this way.
That way?
No.
My way.
Yep. There you go. Center.
Okay, now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, good. So if you can't hear, leave me a message. Or if you are having any other trouble. Or any questions, please. If you've got questions, please ask, and we will try to answer them while John's throwing off the hump now.
So I've shaped this piece of clay. Now, I'm going to throw off the hump, and then typically I use either twice as much or 3 times as much as this, you know, up to 50 pounds if I have it. And when I use larger quantities, I can center this and then add another piece of clay and a third piece of clay. I can keep on mounding this thing up, but I got to be careful to center it. Make sure there are no air pockets. So I'm actually using fingertips to this area of my hand.
There you go, bumping everything.
And as I'm doing this, I can feel that the clay is not smooth, or it's bumpy because it's not centered correctly. So they say you squeeze the imperfections up to the top, and then you push down. Now there, this is centered. This is, of course, it doesn't have to be fully centered. So for making a small bowl, and if I was making a series of same bowls, I use my gauge. Now there's a little bit of an air pocket on the top, so I squeeze it off. Push it up. Now this part is centered. This is not. Now I have 2 ways to gauge it, and I could use a divider or some such device, but I use what I have right here, and this is this width, and then when I open it up, I push the clay down so far. So my thumb is hooked over and I've reached as far as I can go. And I mark where the bottom is. And the first pull is this. And you'll note that so the left hand is pinching as I move up. I can't get a finished shape. That's a mistake that I made early on. You can't get to the end right away. You've got to gradually pull the clay outward, keeping in mind that the clay balls should be relatively even in thickness. And the trick to that is that when I'm down here with my knuckle, the clay is thicker, so I need more pressure. But as I come up, I gradually lessen that pressure, and when I get to the top, this is something that I learned later on, is that this is quite a bit thicker than this area right here. And I'll just illustrate that. Push the needle in, so it's that thick. And you can see that this is thicker. That helps me control the top. It allows me to do a number of things. So next week I'm going to be making covered jars. And then this thickness will serve me to make the chase for the lid. So the second pull, I go down, I just repeat and pull upward, and I gradually start thinning out the top but not too much. So the third and final fold, and you'll notice I'm using the minimum amount of water or slip to throw the bowl. And I get a little bit of detail at the top here. Now, if you could see inside, you'd see that the throwing marks are even from the bottom all the way up. And I'll display that after I finish here. So to cut this off, I know that the very bottom on the inside is about here. So in order to pick it up off the hump, 1/2 inch, get rid of clay that gets in the way. Now I'm going to make a triangular bowl.
Oh, I don't have a done.
And then to cut it off, I use kite string. String goes around in the notch. I hold the string level, and when I feel a little resistance, I just give it a slight tug, and that cuts it. Now here, I don't know if you can see the throwing marks in the bowl.
Let's see. Yes. So there. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Good. And now the end product of this bowl that he just made is this. So you can see the triangle, and it's in red. What's really cool about this one is it's one red outside and a different red inside. We didn't do that on purpose.
It's magic.
It is magic. So this is what the finished product looks like in red in a triangle bowl. And it does shrink 12% or so.
Yeah, this is going to be slightly bigger than that one.
I think so. Okay. So I do have other bowls. I have the wavy gravy bowl on the edges, if you want to do that one.
So the fun thing for me is sometimes I'll sit at the wheel and I'll just do a variety pack, and then at the end of the day I'll pick out the ones that I thought were suitable or had some sort of something, and rework the ones that didn't make it, the number 2s, and then figure out what I did right.
That's right, because you don't have to, not everything you make is precious. In fact, you have to let go of everything in order to be critical of your own work.
So if you get into this rhythm thing, my theory was, and it was in the beginning, it will show some sort of confidence in what I'm doing, and I will throw a pot with fairly even walls. So I'm using the shape of my finger on the inside is to form the shape on the inside. And believe me, it took a long while to get that kind of controlled, to get it to be even. So I'm going to square up not square up, but get the top rim straightened out. Add a little bit. That's almost like 3/4 of an inch. You know, I can't exactly see, but I have a general idea. Now with this style of bowl, I make what I call the Italian edge. It's rippled.
It's rippled, like, if I can, this is what it should end up in front of John there. See, it has a little, it's called wavy gravy. It's a blast to the past because we weren't hippies, but wavy gravy is kind of a hippie thing.
Yeah.
Back in the 60s. Okay.
So, very gently.
Just like a pie, right?
Right.
Pie crust.
The first time I did this, I exaggerated so much that I thought, oh man, I really destroyed that shape.
Very subtle.
But it also gives a little additional grip to the bowl. When you feel the edges, you can use that to help hold the bowl.
The foot also, that's really important, that when he finally gets to trim this, which is probably tomorrow, and he'll just trim down the foot so it ends up looking like this.
There's the inside again.
Pardon me. And the foot is distinctive for two reasons. One is that it lifts it up off the table, kind of gives it, what would you say, if you're lifting it up off the table?
Gives it a little more prominence.
It
elevates it.
There you go, elevates it. It just makes it, so there's that.
Makes it happy.
It makes it happy, and you. But also, you can grip it. I have arthritis, and my fingers don't hold as well as they used to. So if I'm hanging onto this here in the soapy water, it's more likely to slip out of my hands, but not here. Here I can hold it and move it around. So it just is another thoughtful thing that the designer came up with.
So now I'm centering the very bottom third of the piece of clay. And when it feels right, I can start. So I make the plunge, and then a one-handed roughing out. And as I get up to here, I'm relaxing. So from down here to here, there's quite a bit of pressure, and then I lessen that pressure. Once I tried to demonstrate what students typically do is use this pressure thing and thin it out so much that it folds up like an accordion and falls apart. I couldn't do it because my muscle memory wouldn't allow me. So a lot of pressure here, and less and less and less. And I'm doing this slow motion. It was a little bit too thick right here, so you saw that I just gently pinched it with my two fingers here. There's kind of a limit as to the size of an object you can make off the hump. reaching that limit. And the reason is that picking it up and moving it can cause the clay to distort. And there's some really strong throwing marks in the side of the bowl. And I'm going to put the final shape, but not disappear those lines, but diminish them.
I just want to say thanks to everybody for stopping in to our studio. We missed doing our Tuesday demonstrations during the season, and which lasts from beginning of May to the end of October here in Door County. And we do demonstrations during the summer every Tuesday, 10 a.m. We've been doing it for 15 years now, a long time, and we love it. So last summer we decided to do the demonstrations outside. John had a wheel that could be moved, and we had a place for people to sit, safely distanced, and still be able to see and hear. That was really nice. Sadly, the wheel that had been sitting around pretty much just waiting for somebody to use it had been inhabited by mice, and they had left a little nest there. They were gone. We live in a barn, so we do have a mouse problem, and so it would wreck. It would pull the
Pulleys.
Pulleys would be pulled off or slide off because of all that. And John would then flip it over and fix it, and sometimes that became the demonstration. Watch John fix it. Yeah, we're going to do that again this summer, depending, of course. But we've never had demonstrations during the winter. It's too small in here, and it's not a lot of people come. So this is kind of feeding our need to share our love of pottery, which is, demonstrations are certainly there to teach people about pottery and to sell pottery, but it's mostly connections with people. And we've met some really amazing people here, and they have great stories. And I know that you all who stop by, thank you for being here. I'm sorry you didn't see that. Can you show it without wrecking it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think I did.
No, I mean when you take it off.
Yeah. I'm going to make sure.
That was a pretty good one.
Guaranteed success.
Huh.
So with the wood tool, I harden this notch so that when I pick it up with my fingers, it won't distort. Cut it off, and even better, I get the goo off my hands.
Or slip.
Slip. Mm-hmm. And dry fingers are better.
Good grip.
So there.
Yeah, I think it's visible.
Then later on, I'm going to ripple the edges.
Oh, you're going to Italianate this one?
Yeah,
Okay.
later. Not now. I don't
Tomorrow.
want to disturb the blue, the cobalt that I put on the top.
Of course.
Or, want me to throw a soup?
Sure, can you throw a soup mug from there?
Yeah.
Okay.
You see, I've got just enough clay here to make a pan ring to hold the bat.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll explain what that is. So on the wheel surface,
and the reason you have to use a bat is that this can't be picked up. No, it's because of the shape of it.
mm-hmm.
So
That's flat bottom.
yeah, So the bowl itself lends itself to being picked up carefully with the extra clay. So then he uses bats, but he'll explain that as he does it. I have a soup mug right here.
So my bat is that width. Clay's misbehaving a little bit.
Is it?
Anyway, it'll be just fine. So this is called a bat, and it's made out of plaster. I found a 8-inch PVC pipe and cut a 1-inch strip, cut a notch in it, oiled up the inside edge of the PVC ring, and then I poured plaster here and leveled it. And I made a lot of these. And there are books that tell you how much. Would you give me that small piece of clay over there?
Sure.
Tells you the exact formula for the amount of square or cubic inches of plaster you need. So you have to use your math skills to figure out the number of cubic inches in this. And there's a formula, number pi r squared, stuff like this.
You have to use that.
Yep.
Oh.
It's
I
one of the
flunked pi.
it's one of the first things that you learn in math, and it's come in handy.
Is it?
Figuring out the amount of cubic square inches that are in this round circle, and then translate that to the amount of plaster and water. There's a whole formula. It's in a book somewhere. Daniel Rose has that formula, I believe. Things you have to know. I mean, it's either that or you find somebody to make them for you.
Right.
Some idiot.
So how come you don't slam the clay down?
Because it's not necessary. Because I'm not a good aim.
Okay.
Because I want it as close to center as possible. I think in the beginning, I thought the word throw meant to throw it physically on the wheel head. Well, I wasn't right about that.
No. One winter day.
Yeah, I did some research, and the word throw pertains to putting wood or metal on a vertical lathe, or a horizontal lathe.
You know where we learned that? Wikipedia.
Yeah.
We Googled it, and there was a wiki link, but it comes from the Germanic word, Germany?
Anglo-Saxon.
Anglo-Saxon, yeah. It meant throwing it on the lathe, and there we were, finally educated.
Putting clay on the lathe, yes. So I have all this center to be one finger length. This is about 2 pounds. I open it up a little bit differently. Instead of using the 2 thumbs, I just use the middle fingers of my left hand. Depth gauge, that's too thick. So I'll go down just a little bit more. So I want to be able to trim it. I can go down just a little bit more. And the reason I do this is that oftentimes now, see, that's about ideal. It's close to a 1/2 inch or so. Because I'm going to trim it later on, and that thickness can cause a problem. It can cause it to crack right in the middle, because this would be the bottom is the last place that the pot dries. And to prevent that, I turn the pots from the dry side upside down to allow the clay, or oftentimes I'll just cover it with plastic and force the clay to dry slowly. I also trained myself to when I to open this up and put the floor of the pot as even as possible, and I use this little wood rib. See, there's a slight curve to it to compress the clay down there. That also helps prevent any cracking is compression. Compression, and use your water wisely. Don't allow this inside bottom to get too wet. In other words, don't have a little puddle down there. And what the water does is it slightly expands the clay. And of course when it dries, that'll be the last place it dries. So what I want to do is compress the clay so that theoretically the clay will dry evenly. I want to make a soup mug. I pull in. Pushing out. And there you saw I'm actually throwing a curve. This soup mug, I have a little too much, so I'm going to trim off a 1/4 of an inch there.
So if you've got questions, please post, make a comment, and we'll answer them as we're going along.
So before I cut it off,
Sorry.
I straighten out the foot. Now these shapes, the inside shape, took the form of my finger in the inside, and then this recurve, this very handy shape, formed this curve. So that when you look at it, you say, oh, I'm familiar with that shape. I've been there.
I own one.
Yeah, you own one. Now I'm going to put a little color on here.
Good.
So these are clay slips over here to my right.
I don't know if we can see those. We can't.
No. But anyway.
But you can watch and put it on.
So this is a background color, and then I'm going to put some porcelain, and this porcelain happens to be transparent.
When? After it's
Fired.
Yeah.
So what I'm after is I want to express the activity of the brush marks, and I've developed glazes that do that. This is a cobalt slip.
So that's blue.
And then there's a very dark blue that this is so, and sometimes these colors don't exactly register, or they'll be very, very subtle. I learned a long time ago that you have to exaggerate to get colors that you want. Although,
You're putting the white bead of porcelain
yeah,
on the bottom. And you do that, there's a reason for that.
yeah, it's Design 101. If you use a line, the line expresses what you want to represent. And the line can be confident, it could be I don't know what I'm doing, it could be anything.
Whimsical.
Whimsical.
Mm-hmm.
So a line is very, very expressive. And when I started doing this, there was a young potter in Abe's studio, And he said, John, you know, your brush mark is so sloppy. And I thought about that, and I thought, well, he's right. So with the addition of a line, the line helps guide what you're looking at. It makes it a sharper focus. And I was going to use porcelain, and this is. And so it also adds some dimension.
Right.
In other words, this porcelain will be a raised line, and then the glaze can play with that. So as the glaze melts, it will pool on the edges and exaggerate it. And you can see that I'm removing some parts that are, to me, not desirable. And then for the final bit, I use a comb to put more lines. But I don't want to get so crazy that it gets confusing. So I want the lines to kind of express what's already there. I've got that double ridge here. I want a smoother edge on the top. And this is thicker right here. This is quite thin. I could illustrate. So I'm going to find a place to stick the needle here.
Yeah, but showing it's going to be...
So it's...
I don't know. Hold on. Let me see.
3/16.
Yeah, it's hard
Here
to see
it's
that.
quite a bit thicker. This is about 1/8.
And you have that because it makes it more sturdy.
Sturdy, yeah, sturdy. This is where what I would call the working edge of a pot, where the spoon meets the edge, and it's going to be taking a lot of punishment, but in use.
We stack our soup bowls on top of each other, so we've been doing that forever, and it doesn't cause any chipping, and it doesn't wreck the mouth. So it's a handy thing to do.
Yeah, and don't be in a hurry to wire it off rapidly. As you could see, when I finished up, it pulled it off center.
Oops.
But that's not a problem.
No.
The problem would have been if I had gone fast, it would have created a push out, a little distortion of the round. So I go slowly. It takes a lot of pressure, pulling it taut, so that when I cut across, it doesn't distort it.
Okay.
And that, once distorted, it's difficult to push it back into center. Clay has a memory. You know, it'll say, "You've been a bad boy."
So we're coming to the end of our demonstration and talking about pottery and bowls. And I just wanted to remind you that we're going to be here next Wednesday, whatever number that is, 19th, 17th, 19th, I think, Wednesday at 10 a.m.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Wednesday, 10 a.m. next week Central Time, when John's going to be making covered baking dishes. It's a different way of throwing, so it'll be fun. And we'll talk about how to use them and where to use them and when to use them and stuff like that. So I just want to say thank you. You don't have Clay here today.
Can we go overtime with this?
No, I don't want to go overtime. Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
Yeah, we'll see you next Wednesday at 10 a.m. Tell your friends, and we'll talk about covered dishes, baking dishes, covered jars, all of those things.
And if you have any questions, please.
Yeah, just leave a comment, and we'll answer anything, almost anything. So thanks a lot. We'll see you guys later. We really appreciate you and you coming to our live.
Ciao for now.
Ciao for now. Okay. finished.